Okay, hello everyone. My name is Andre Pilny, and today we have an interview with Holochain co-founder Matthew Schutte. And today's session is going to be, we prepared some questions about the projects for Holochain, and we'd like to know more about the project. So today we're meeting him and he can answer us the questions. So the first question that we prepared for Matthew is could you just introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about yourself?
Sure. So I'm Matthew Schutte. I'm with a company called Holohost and Holochain. So two different projects. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a minute. But without doing too much overview, Holohost is a peer-to-peer web hosting platform. It's a way of doing cloud computing using just the devices of the users themselves. Today, cloud computing mostly happens in giant warehouses somewhere near cheap electricity, usually. And companies like Amazon or Microsoft or Google or IBM, they are basically the center of the internet. We think of the internet as decentralized, but at the moment, not so much. And it's not a small business. Amazon is the third largest company on the planet, and they've got a part of their company that does this web hosting or cloud computing called Amazon Web Services. Amazon Web Services makes up only about 10% of Amazon's revenues, but they account for more profit than the entire rest of the company combined. Holohost is looking to do to Amazon's cash cow what Uber did to taxis. Every one of us has a computer in our home, in our office, and most of the time that computer sits there idle. Even if we're using it, we're doing email, we're working on a Word doc, etc. It has the capacity to be doing video transformations, right? Like there's incredible computing capacity in these modern machines, and for the most part, they're sitting idle. It's very similar to the spare bedroom that you might have in your house that until Airbnb came along was never useful and so was never a source of value to you or anyone else. The Holohost is creating the infrastructure to enable all of those idle computing assets to be put to use, to create value for others who want to run and serve applications to visitors like the developers and the companies who are paying Amazon Web Services today, but where you get paid instead of some giant corporation getting paid. So that's Holohost. This is not a new vision. This is something that people have wanted to do for a long time. I think Silicon Valley, a TV show, they had a whole season where something akin to this was the plot for their season. But it was never possible before because we didn't have the efficient crypto accounting architecture and the distributed computing platform or pattern that we invented over the last couple of years, something called Holochain. And we can go into more detail on Holochain later, but I'll leave it there for the intro.
Yeah, I think it was a very good intro. And I think most people could get a basic understanding what the project is all about. So I have a question on you, what did actually first ignite your interest in this project, or why did you decide to start such a big challenge as Holochain?
Sure. So, and the way that you framed that question, pitching it as being about Holochain, actually gets it right. So I just described Holohost, right? This peer-to-peer cloud computing application. But the truth is, the thing that's really interesting to me and pretty much everybody else isn't that app. It's the larger pattern that app is enabling and supporting, this Holochain infrastructure, this new way of running applications with no organization in the middle, no company in the middle. Now, Holohost is a version of that, but Holochain is this more general pattern that enables anybody to run an application using just the devices of the users themselves. So that means you can do Twitter with no company in the middle, Facebook with no company in the middle, Uber with no company in the middle, Airbnb with no company in the middle. And it's this whole company in the middle thing has come into focus recently with Cambridge Analytica and Facebook and all of the mess around surveillance and us being watched and manipulated by these companies that sit between us in order for us to communicate. But all of that is just a side effect of the way that the web is architected. It wasn't the intention, but it was a consequence. When you run a website, you have to have a web server. Because when you type in a URL, it actually sends you to a specific machine, right? And initially we thought, oh, this will be me sending things from my machine to your machine. But people figured out pretty quickly it's a pain in the butt to keep a web server running. And so very quickly they started offloading those web servers to other folks. Hey, I'll pay you, my web server company. And then eventually people figured out, man, it's nice if you don't have to set up your own web page, your own blog. Maybe somebody else could do a blog service. And all of a sudden, it's not us talking directly to one another. It's me sending a message to Facebook and then Facebook sending that message to you. And then you replying to Facebook and then Facebook forwarding that to me. It's this organization in the middle passing notes for the entire system. That's a centralized architecture. And so the big deal for me is I was interested, I didn't come at this as a computer scientist. I was interested in how communities steer themselves. And what I realized was that our organizations are sort of, I don't know, I guess the way to frame it is, the world is broken, man. You know, like when you look out at the planet, you go, this shit ain't working. And it's obvious to everyone that it's not working, but we haven't figured out how to make it work better. And I got really passionate about that. I wanted to figure out how we could make it work better. And I realized pretty early on, it wasn't just that there were bad guys out there, right? It wasn't just corruption that was the issue. That is an issue, right? That's definitely an issue. But another issue is the complexity that these institutions, because they're centralized, because they're hierarchical, because they have this same pattern that the web today has, they're not able to handle the complexity of the information in the system. They're not able to adapt. They're not able to learn. We aren't able to learn. So we're shooting ourselves in the foot every day, right? We're accidentally killing our planet. Our companies they get big and then die quickly. We have a dysfunctional pattern that we're running, and it's a pattern of centralization. Now, this is not a new message. You know, people have been talking about centralization for a long time, but your intent, while as wonderful as it might be, isn't going to get you the outcome you want. The only thing that gets you the outcome is the architecture. You actually have to do a different dance. And so what we're trying to do is enable a new pattern, a new dance, a new way of humans communicating with one another. And we think that anytime you invent a new medium of communication, it changes the ways in which humans can coordinate. Right? The invention of writing shifted us from little tribes of 150 or so people to empires, basically. Imagine running a country without the ability to write things down. Imagine even running a company without the ability to write things down. It very quickly becomes impossible, right? You realize, no, all of those organizational structures, these structures of centralization, are actually built on top of a medium of communication, writing. With the invention of the internet, we saw whole new ways of organizing and collaborating, sharing economy models, things like Airbnb and peer-to-peer platforms, right? Peer-to-peer communication, peer-to-peer transportation, peer-to-peer accommodations, except none of those things are actually peer-to-peer. All of those architectures were peer to monopoly to peer. And as a result, we're seeing the consequences that everybody is sort of outlining in headline news these days. And so we set out to change how humans can communicate in order to enable them to collaborate in new and more vibrant ways. We really wanted to shift from a world that was application-centric to a world that is human-centric, where each individual gets to decide what the grammars are, the applications are that they speak. Am I doing 140-character tweets? Am I sending out rideshare requests? Am I inviting people to a party with a calendar invite? Those are grammars, right? It's obvious. People have pointed out that Facebook and these other big companies are controlling the data, and the data is a big problem. But another problem is that they also control the grammars. They decide how we can speak with one another. And we're only able to speak with one another if we speak through them. And they're only willing to let us speak through them if that pattern of speaking through them supports their business model. It turns out that this is,
I have a question.
I'll stop.
At the beginning, you mentioned like decentralized Twitter. Am I correct?
Yes.
So,
yes.
like, could you also like come up with some other use cases of applications or projects that can be created on top of Holochain or the whole platform?
Sure. So one thing to make visible is Holochain is not just a white paper, right? This ain't some scam coin project. We've been working on this as an all-volunteer project for 11 years. We launched Holochain as an alpha last year in October. So we've got about 6 or 7 months of this project being live, this pattern being live, and people building applications on it. So we have a peer-to-peer Twitter. We worked with the guy who invented the wiki to do a fully distributed version of a wiki, peer-to-peer wiki. We had somebody at a hackathon recently. We've done probably a dozen hackathons. We've had meetups in 30 cities, if not more. A guy named Victor Zonders, who lives in a village of 900 people in Sweden. It's a village where, 900 people is not a lot of folks. That's not enough people to support a library. But all these people have books. So Victor went, hey, it'd be really cool if we had like a way to see what books other people had that we might be able to borrow. And so he created, at this hackathon with some other folks, a peer-to-peer library application. And nobody needs to run the web server. Nobody needs to be in charge of making sure that this thing stays up, because anybody who wants to use it ends up helping make it be useful and available to others as well, because each user shows up on their phone, on their laptop, on their desktop as both a user and a host. And the reason that that's possible with Holochain, even though it's not really doable in any other system yet, is because Holochain is really lightweight. On our peer-to-peer Twitter, even if there were 1 billion people using that application, and this is OG Twitter, right? 140 character tweets. Over the course of 6 months, you know how much storage you would need to have on your device to have 1 billion people using that system? Let's say with every tweet has 200 copies always available live on the network. Somebody drops off, another person makes a new copy, right? So there's all resilience, redundancy, etc. One photograph is how much storage it would take for you to run peer-to-peer Twitter, even if there were 1 billion people on the network. We're doing a different pattern, a much more efficient pattern than the other decentralized and distributed application architectures have attempted. And so that's the kind of projects that people can do. There's one other thing, though, that's actually really interesting, which is these are not just, oh, you can do the kinds of apps we've done today, but you can do them without a company in the middle. That's important. We think that's really big. But that's actually not the thing that's interesting to us. The thing that's interesting to us is that we're not just enabling distributed networks, right? We're enabling ecosystems. The difference between a network and an ecosystem is that in a network, you have the members of a community speaking some shared protocol, right? But in an ecosystem, you have agents who can receive signals on one protocol and then express them on another. I can see something using light and then speak it using sound. I can receive nice things that people have said about me on Uber and express them on Lyft, some other ride-sharing platform. I can make visible that I'm a good driver. And by putting the user in the middle, we think this is going to shift how applications and communication works more generally. In fact, we don't even think about applications in the way that most people do. We think about them as microservices that are composable and adaptable, that the users can take and change and tweak and make work in ways that they want them to work so that it helps them solve the problems that they want to solve.
Okay. I have a question about your ICO that you are currently running. It's actually not initial coin offering, but it's an initial community offering. So I'd like to ask you, why did you choose to go this way? And what is actually the whole token? What is the role of this token in the whole economy? Or what is the kind of like the token mechanism? Or why do you actually need a token? What is the token used for?
That's great. So yeah, we're in the middle right now of an initial community offering, our ICO, and I think this is day 19. We've got about 11 days left, so depending on when this thing goes live, the ICO ends on April 28th at 10 a.m. GMT. The reason we called it an initial community offering is two reasons. One, it's about community. We had all sorts of other ways that we could have raised money, but we want this thing to change the world. We didn't want to take venture capital and make promises of being able to extract giant dollars on an ongoing basis, et cetera, et cetera. No. For us, this is about community. We wanted a community building and running this thing together. As I've already kind of expressed, we're kind of big on the whole community thing, on enabling communities to thrive. That's our focus. The other reason why we call it an initial community offering and not an initial coin offering is because we don't use coins. We have a cryptocurrency in our system, but it's not a coin or token-based cryptocurrency. Now, that's a different pattern than just about everything else in the blockchain world, right? But then again, we're an evolution of blockchain. We're trying to do the thing that solves most of the problems that blockchains have been struggling with for the past decade. So instead of using a coin, in our system, our crypto accounting system, HoloFuel, we have account balances. And you have an account balance. So if you've got 500 and I've got 500 and I want to send you some funds, we go, okay, Matt's account's going to go to 499, from 500 to 499. And Andre's account's going to go from 500 to 501. Matt signs off on this. Andre signs off on this. We share it to the larger community. And if later I go, no, I didn't spend that money, anybody else in that community is going to go, bull, your signature's on the transaction, right? And so this enables us to do parallel transactions. We're not actually using a global consensus mechanism. We're using an immune response mechanism, something similar to how the body deals with bad actors. Right? There's no global consensus in your body, and there's no like single CEO cell telling everybody what to do. There's an immune response. And in our system, that enables us to do millions or billions of simultaneous transactions in parallel. And it enables us to do those transactions at very low cost. This is not $40 Bitcoin transaction fees, because that wouldn't work for something like HoloHost. If you're serving out web pages, that service of a web page might be worth a penny or maybe a fraction of a penny. Your accounting cost for paying somebody for that can't be more expensive than the value that you're trying to recognize. So we had to design a whole new different system to do that. Now, we had an advantage. Our founders are currency designers. They've done professional currency design for 15 years, right? We didn't start out, man, wouldn't it be nice to do a Bitcoin kind of thing? No. We're from before Bitcoin. And we've been designing currency systems for communities and companies to help steer themselves better and thrive for a long time. If you want to learn more about all of that, you can go to metacurrency.org, the resources section for folks at home who are interested in how can you design currencies. There's a whole bunch of really interesting stuff there for training materials, etc. And if you have other questions, you can ping us, and we'd be happy to answer them.
Okay.
You also asked about the token mechanism.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So right now we're running, HoloHost is not live yet, right? The reason we're doing an ICO is to raise the funds to finish building the software for that. Holochain is live, HoloHost is not yet. We're planning to launch it in July, August, or September of this year, right? Q3 2018, that's our target. We're launching, and we've launched an ERC20 token on the Ethereum blockchain. So this has been a standard way of doing ICOs. And we're doing so much stuff that's new, we figured we should at least take one thing that people were familiar with and use that pattern. That ERC20 token is called HOT. It's a Holo token. And it's basically a temporary coupon. So if you buy a Holo token, in a few months' time when we launch Holo, that coupon becomes redeemable for credits in our HoloFuel crypto accounting system. So you end up redeeming it for an account balance. If you have 10 Holo tokens, you get 10 HoloFuel. Now, we've priced those Holo tokens in an interesting way. Our main competitor is Ethereum, basically, right? Ethereum, most people think of it as a thing to invest in, but it really is a business. It is a service. It's a computing platform. It's a computational processing platform. And unfortunately, though it's a really interesting idea. I mean, I was interested enough in Ethereum that I invested in their initial ICO, right? Because I was like, ooh, they're working on what we're working on. That's interesting. But unfortunately, their architecture is really inefficient. Right? It has major scale problems. It has major cost problems. So we did some benchmarking. We checked out a peer-to-peer version of Twitter that was on Ethereum and ours on Holo. We checked out our own whitelisting process that we're doing on Ethereum, and we looked at what that would take to do in Holochain. And we looked at the DAO code that's on the Ethereum Foundation's website. And we basically set up a corollary version of that in Holo. And we looked at how expensive it was to run these two systems. And it was pretty simple what we found. You know, different programs have different balances of storage and compute, et cetera. And so they come out a little different each. But it was something like 1 million times more expensive to operate computational services on Ethereum than it is on Holo. We are basically selling Holo tokens at a discount. We expect that because people will be able to provide services for something like 1/1,000th the cost of what it would take to pay for those services on Ethereum, they're going to want some margin, right? So they're going to charge on top of that. But there's going to be a limit there. There's going to be a competitive marketplace, so this will drive price to some point. But what we've said is we will promise to deliver those computing services at 1/10,000th the price that Ethereum does. Okay? What that means is, for the same price that you could buy a remote control car, if computing services were cars, for the same price you could buy a remote control car on Ethereum, $40, you could buy a real car, and not just any car, a Lamborghini on Holo, right? $400,000. That's the 10,000 times price difference. So sometimes people will ask us, well, how will the token respond and will it go up in value and all those kinds of things? It's illegal for me to make claims about that stuff. So I won't make claims, but I will ask you this. If a service shows up that does the same job or even a close job to what Ethereum is providing for 1/10,000th the price or the cost, or 1/100,000th the cost, do you still want to be hodling ETH? Right?
Yeah, my question was also like regarding the token mechanism. So meaning, for example, are there going to be any miners on the platform that will be mining the new cryptocurrency, or how are the new tokens going to be issued, or why should it? Yeah.
Got it. So what's it used for? What's it used for? Thank you. That's an important one. Our version of mining is hosting. Mining in the existing traditional blockchain world is basically a whole bunch of wasteful computation trying to win a lottery. And if you win that lottery, you get the right to make the next update to the blockchain, and you win some currency in return. Right? That's the basic architecture of mining, at least in the proof of work structure. In our system, there's no mining, there's hosting. You have somebody who's running an application, let's say a peer-to-peer version of Airbnb. And it's a nice little Holochain app. It works the way they want it to work. It's all this great stuff. But they don't just want to be able to rent to people who are running Holochain. They want to be able to rent to anybody. And so web hosts go, hey, I will serve websites that interact with your Holochain app to the outside world. I will make use of some of the spare computing capacity on my device to let anybody book a room in your places. And in return, when I do that little web hosting work, you pay me. And it's a marketplace. It's a two-sided marketplace where I make an offer. Yeah, I'll do this much work for this price. And the developer goes, yeah, that offer works for me. And they've got other metrics as well. They've got things like latency and uptime, right? As well as price and maybe geography. So that they can go, yeah, for that task, we want that allocated to a host that is near the person who's asking the questions, because they're going to be able to respond faster. That improves the performance of that system. So that's how people earn money. Their computers do useful computation that there's actually demand for. So unlike most of the cryptocurrencies that are out there, we've created an actual asset-backed currency. What is the asset that backs this currency? It's the computing capacity of the devices on the network.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, I understand the mechanism. So it means that it's going to be a marketplace with the hosting services.
That's right. And people pay for those services with this currency. And our business model, to make clear, our business model is that when they pay for those services in this currency, we take 1%, right, or less. But that 1% transaction fee is smaller than just about any other payment processing fee on the planet. But we think that's all we need to take. And in fact, it's not just all we need to take for Holo. 50% of those revenues go back to the Holochain Foundation to support the larger ecosystem. For us, this wasn't about making $1 billion. We've given no equity to any investors. We've given no equity to any employees. This ain't about a small group of folks getting rich. We're trying to change how humanity collaborates. And this is our mechanism, our hack on how to foster and fuel this new pattern of user-centered, human empowering communication.
Okay. Yeah, that totally makes sense. I have a question about like some future projects or some companies or partnerships that you might have been already discussing before. Like, do you already have some partners that are interested in contributing to the network or contributing to the project and or using the services in the future? Do you have some partnerships already?
There are a bunch of folks that we're in talks with. There's some that have already made announcements, so I might be able to talk about them. I'm actually blanking on the name of their company. Gunther is one of the founders. There's a venture capital firm that decided, yep, we're going to run all our stuff on Holochain. We've been speaking to some of the largest consulting firms on the planet. And those consulting firms are interested in taking Holochain to the big enterprise companies, because every enterprise company today has a research and development team with 3 guys on it working on blockchain. Why? Well, because every company has some guy on the board of directors who's going, what are we doing about blockchain? I keep reading about blockchain, right? And so they're going, oh, we got to have somebody on this. So they got this 3-person team that's out there just frantically searching, is there anything useful that we can do with this technology? And for the most part, they're finding not much, right? And the guys upstairs, in the corner office go, just keep looking. It's a small price to pay your salary. Just see if you can figure out something. And so they're hunting. Well, the folks in the big consulting firms are recognizing that interest in continuing to search, even when nothing's getting turned up, is only gonna last so long. And so they've started coming to us because they've heard through the grapevine that, this might be the evolution of blockchain that actually solves those problems of scale, speed, cost, adaptability, composability. And so they're going, if we can get them experimenting with this and they start building stuff that's useful and provides value for their organization, then we're going to have a big pipeline of consulting business, right? Because they're going to want to learn more about how to do this stuff. And so what have I been spending my time on? I haven't been going out shilling the ICO. I've been running around Europe. I'm on a 34-city, 99-day tour building community. I'm interacting with companies, developers, meetup groups, etc., trying to get them understanding these new patterns, playing with these new patterns, collaborating with one another, because I know that in just a little time, we're going to have huge demand for developer talent. And so I need to get people playing with this stuff now, so that when those companies come calling, there's somebody who can go, yep, we know how to build that. The truth is, it's actually not that difficult to build it, because on Holochain, you can build applications using JavaScript, using the most widely used programming languages on the planet. We're doing everything we can to make it as easy as possible for developers to build on our platform and to be able to build with other platforms. We're trying to make ourselves easy to play with. So it's a free thing. It's easy. We figured out a hack for how to actually fuel that ecosystem actually maturing and being better supported over time with this Holo hosting thing. That Holo hosting thing also makes it so that, hey, you build this new thing and you're not just on your own island. Other visitors from the traditional web can book a room anyway without having to play by this new pattern. So we think we've sort of lined up the various things that we have to solve in order to get this thing to really take off. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to launch not a new network, but a whole new ecosystem of how humans communicate and collaborate.
Yeah, that sounds definitely great. So I have a question about your roadmap. Like, when will actually people or developers be able to use Holochain, or when are they going to be able to build applications on top of it?
Sure. So they will be able to use Holochain 7 months ago.
Ah, okay. So it's
It is live. People are building. We've held
that's a
12
big part of it.
hackathons. We've got
Okay.
meetups all over we've got meetups in Brazil. We've had meetups in Canada, the US, Germany, Copenhagen, like all over the place. People are building. We've got an online
That's
community
interesting.
at chat.holochain.net. Chat.holochain.net. That's our online community. It takes just a minute to go on there and sign up. Do it right now. There's amazing humans there having conversations about all the different applications they want to build, all the applications they are building, right? If you're interested in new forms of governance, there's channels that are talking about that. If you're interested in biomimicry, figuring out how to leverage the learnings of 1 billion years of trial and error, there's conversations happening about that. If you're interested in governance, there's, et cetera, et cetera. There's people doing agriculture projects. There's people doing new forms of currency. There's people doing cooperatives. There's people who are trying to figure out how to manage whole communities on this platform, on this pattern. So go to chat.holochain.net. The other place that I should direct people to while I'm doing that is our Telegram channel, t.me/channel-holo, CHANNEL, holo. So t.me/channel-holo. That's our Telegram channel. It's new. We actually launched our Telegram 2 days before the ICO started because we're not really marketing folk. We're community builders and system builders. But yeah.
Yeah, I think the time is running and we don't have much time left. So I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
What does your project do poorly and what does the project do well?
That is such a good question. I'll start with what we do poorly. I think we actually do marketing poorly. I'm the director of communications, right? So technically, it's my job to make sure we have amazing marketing. That title's a little misleading because we're not a hierarchy. We've got a fairly flat organization. We transitioned from being a 5-person volunteer thing about a year ago to being 35 people now. But we're pretty flat. And so marketing has not been our strong suit. I think we're changing the world in such profound ways, and we're doing so much at once that it's hard to communicate that because you're describing new patterns and people can't see it, or they can't see why it's relevant, right? And so marketing-wise, we've not been great. We don't have the slick videos. The design on our website isn't super amazing. We've been unwilling. We've tried to take a principled stance in every way. We're trying to run what we call an ethical ICO. So we've been unwilling to pay people for publicity. We've been unwilling to pay people to do YouTube reviews. We've been unwilling to pay to speak at conferences. I don't know how many people in the crypto world are familiar with how the conference circuit works, but the conferences in the real world look like this. You're a speaker. You have something really interesting to say. Awesome. Conference organizer sells tickets, organizes a conference, and pays the speaker to come and speak. In the crypto world, it works like this. Crypto conference organizer sells tickets, organizes a conference, and then charges people to speak. You want to speak? Cool. Give us $10,000. What? How are you going to get quality content if the only people who speak are people who are paying to speak? What's the ethics there, right? So for us, we went, this is BS. We're not playing that game. So we don't pay to speak. We don't pay for reviews. We're trying to get this out in the world in an organic way. And so what did we do? We put people like me on the road to go meet people face to face and talk with them, not to promote our product, but to build our community. I think the thing that we do well is we build systems well. We design currency as well. We build community well. But we do it in the way that long-term communities actually need to be built, which is by building relationships, not by luring people in with a bait and switch.
Yeah. Okay, understood. I think you mentioned already earlier, but could you just at the end just tell people how they can find more information about the project, where they should go? And then
Yeah, absolutely. So you can learn more, you can participate in the ICO, learn more, etc. at holo.host. That's HOLO.HOST, holo.host. Join our Telegram at t.me/channel-holo. Channel Holo. That's our Telegram channel. And you can also join our online community at chat.holochain.net.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Matthew. It was great talking to you. I wish you best of luck, and I know that you're going to have a speech soon, so I wish you good luck with that and have fun.
Wonderful. Andre, thank you so much. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.